And today we're doing a video that I've actually wanted to do for a long time, but I haven't been able to do it because I haven't had a 13 Pro to get my hands on. But today, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get right into it. We are going to be doing a comparison, and mainly just on the biggest differences between the two devices. But today we're going to be looking at the 12 Pro and the 13 Pro. But we are going to be looking at the 12 Pro, 13 Pro. Both of these are going to have the same exact screen size, but they are different phones. So the first thing we're going to talk about today, guys, is the fact that these phones, in my opinion, are completely different in one aspect, and that is the screen. So these phones, these are going to have a 6.1-inch OLED display, which is organic LED, which basically means you're going to have the blackest of blacks, very deep colors, extremely good resolution. It's basically as good as it gets these days. The biggest difference between these phones, which you guys probably have heard about if you follow any of the Apple news or anything like that, is that this one has a 60 refresh rate and this one has up to a 100 refresh rate, 120 refresh rate, hertz refresh rate, whatever you're going to call it. All right, guys, so let's just jump right into the actual video of the comparison. I know you guys are here to see these two match up, and you're not here to look at my face. Let's just go over that real quick. So we have the 13 Pro on this side. We have the 12 Pro on this side. Just keep that in mind just because for this comparison, we're going to want to look at the biggest differences between them. So as far as the screen goes, guys, like I said, the biggest differences are going to be that this is going to have a 120 refresh rate over here, and this is going to have a 60 refresh rate. So if you guys pay close attention to the screen right now, you guys can see that this does look different. So whatever you're going to be doing, if we go to Spotify on both devices, just because that is something that is usually fairly a good bet. And on this guy, wow, it's hard to do this, but that is okay. So basically, if we go to Spotify in both of these, we can see exactly the difference between both devices. You can just see that on the right is buttery smooth, whereas on the left, I mean, it's definitely a noticeable difference. So when you're kind of going through, it just looks nice. It looks like, wow, I want to look at that. So the biggest things you guys are going to notice about that is that if you're somebody who's really into technology, you're going to see that on your day-to-day stuff, everything's just going to look better. So let's just go into settings real quick because I want you guys to see exactly what it looks like to have. So this is going to be dark mode, and we got light mode on the left here. So as you guys can see, that just looks way nicer. And then that is just a little bit more harsh. I mean, I obviously prefer this one. So it's really up to you guys. If you guys are leaning, which one do I get? Whatever it's going to be, which iPhone is best for you, that's up to you. I think the refresh rate makes it just a more enjoyable experience. So whether you're on settings, whether you're doing whatever it's going to be, and the light and dark mode is not really going to affect it. The refresh rate is just about how good it looks and how smooth these interactions are. So the next thing I will point out real quick, guys, is just a quick difference is going to be the notches. So this one right here on the right has a slightly less notch. We are going to go to settings just so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. So up here, we can see that there is just a little bit more notch on the left side than on the right side. Just for this purpose, we are going to go to light mode. So I just want you guys to see exactly what we're talking about here. You can go through both of these and see. So if we go to the top up here and we go do kind of a big swipe. So there is a difference there, guys. So anyways, guys, that is design. Part one of design. Part two is we're going to just flip these devices over and you guys are going to notice a big difference. So we have some camera improvements and holy moly, we can see that. So for this, we have the 13 Pro on this side. I'm just going to keep this very clear. And then the 12 Pro on this side. So off camera, this is very obvious that these are huge. These are way different. This is noticeable. I would say this is almost double the size of this. On video, you can see this as well, guys. But we can see that the camera bumps are way different. So when we put the phones together, it is going to be a thicker phone. the 13 Pro. We have the 13 Pro, like I said, guys, and then we have the 12 Pro. Just keep in mind that the 13 is always going to be the blue, and then the 12 is going to be the gray. So you guys can see that over here, is there a way for me to, so that's for them literally side by side with cameras facing the same way. So it is a thicker phone. And we'll get into that later, guys, because there is a bigger battery in here. So I wanted to give you an actual representation and real world statistics of the battery life comparisons. It's easy for someone to just on a video be like, oh yeah, the battery life is better and the phone's thicker and all these things, but I wanted to give you guys some facts. So just to jump right into it, the iPhone 12 Pro, after going into my settings and kind of analyzing it, in the last 24 hours, my screen on time has been 6 hours and 55 minutes. Screen off has been 1 hour and 7 minutes. Just because I'm not really sure what screen off means, because I definitely go multiple hours without my screen being on. So I'm not really sure what that really means, but I think it's just more of a science based off the battery, what it's calculated. But then the really impressive numbers come. So the 12 Pro, guys, like I said, was 6 hours and 55 minutes screen on time in the last 24 hours. And then the 13 Pro has had a screen on time of 10 hours and 5 minutes in the last 24 hours, screen off of 1 hour and 33 minutes. So in reality, guys, you guys can really see how when I say that the battery life is better, that I'm not just blowing smoke, is that the 13 Pro, they did put a bigger battery in there. So as far as the numbers go, guys, you are going to get a few extra hours of battery on the 13 Pro. And since we all know that hours are, a significant part of our day, I would say that that is significant. So guys, that is the battery portion of this video, and I would definitely consider that when making your decision. But there is a thickness difference. So keep that in mind when you're going to buy the phones. That does actually mean that the phone is going to be a heavier phone. So this one is going to be heavier as far as that goes. So keep that in mind. But anyways, guys, the things we're looking at that are brand new with the phones is going to be that the 13 Pro is now going to have cinematic mode. So guys, getting into the camera here, the 12 Pro is going to be pretty standard. So the 13 Pro is going to have this cinematic mode, which essentially means that you're able to have two different things in focus and then have the background be blurry. So we can kind of use the camera that we're using right now to see this in action a little bit. And if we go like that, you can see that the background is blurry. So that is going to be the cinematic mode. So for that being said, guys, that is one of the biggest differences in the new parts to the new lens. Everything else is going to be the same. You got your slow-mo, you got your time-lapse, you got regular video, you got photo, portrait, and pano. There are some differences to the camera that I will put on the screen for you guys to see. But as far as that goes, that's really the only big difference between the two phones as far as a camera goes, because this one's just going to have regular video mode. So if you're looking to buy, if you're looking at the camera, guys, I think the cinematic mode, if you're really into photography, I think that's great. Otherwise, I'm not sure that that's really a selling point. Going back to the screens, guys, I will point out that this phone does have, the 13 is going to have a brighter screen. What most people don't know is that this phone actually has 1,000 nits of brightness, whereas this phone on the left, the 12 Pro, is only going to have 800. So I was recently told that, I recently found out that this phone, the 13 Pro, is going to be a lot easier to see in broad daylight with direct sunlight on the phone specifically. So keep that in mind when making a buying decision. So guys, you guys are obviously here to see how these both perform. So we're going to do some real world tests real quick. We are going to load up some pages here. All right, guys, so we are going to pull up a YouTube channel here real quick just so you guys can see exactly what this is going to look like as far as processor goes and everything like that. So with the processor, I mean, the phone is more snappy. You got the refresh rate going on here. So I pulled up my channels just so you guys can have a reference to what we're looking at here. So this is going to be the best representation of the phones. So if we're going between apps, so we go to camera, back there, and then we kind of cycle between apps, we're going to see that the phones handle themselves fairly similarly. But you do get that faster processor on this guy. So that is going to be something that is obvious. But I would keep in mind that this one is a thicker phone. We can see that it stands up just a little bit right here. We can see that that is actually standing up. And when we put them together like this, we can see it's a thicker phone. So guys, to conclude this video, the one thing I wanted to go over was that both of these phones are going to do the job just fine for you. I know I've beat a dead horse at this point by saying this, but from doing a review on both of these, and basically I've owned the 12 Pro for a while and the 13 Pro. By using it for about a week, I've been able to see the real differences. And in reality, guys, I don't think that the brightness of the phone, unless you're somebody who really sees that as practical, is going to should determine whether or not you buy that phone. I would basically buy this phone if battery life and if the refresh rate are a big deal for you. The reason why is because while using the phone, the 12 Pro is a little bit lighter than the 13 Pro. And we use these phones all day, every day. A lot of people don't really mind the max size phones. And if you don't mind the max size phones, then you're okay, because the 13 Pro is not a max size phone, but it is a little heavier than the 12 Pro. So my point is, if you're okay with a little bit of a heavier phone to accomplish the battery life dilemma that some people face, if you're somebody who's a heavy user and want to be able to use your phone all day and maybe even to the next day without having to charge, the 13 Pro is for you. It's a little thicker, and that means that it's going to be a little bit more cumbersome and a little bit more girthy in the hand. I'm not sure if girthy is the right word, but whatever. And the refresh rate, whether or not you like to admit it, I think the refresh rate is a total game changer. There's a lot of things on the internet saying that it's not a big deal, whatever it is. I think it totally is a game changer. The reason why is because content is key. And right now, everyone wants content on their phones. They want it immediately. Videos, Twitter, pictures, anything and everything that they can find, and that's totally fair. But the best way to look at it is with the refresh rate just makes it beautiful. We're already looking at OLED screens all day. Most people are on their phones all day, like me. That's just how this world is. So for me, I think the refresh rate is super practical, and I think it's a total game changer for Apple. I also think that the cinematic mode is cool if you're a Hollywood, if you're someone who's really into video and that's your passion and your hobby. Otherwise, I would say stick with the 12 Pro, get a good deal on Amazon, or maybe buy one used from Apple, save a few $100s and wait for the new phones to come out, because maybe you'll have something better in the future. So overall, guys, hit that like button if you like this video. It helps support my videos, and it helps support the YouTube algorithm. I really hope you enjoyed this. Once again, guys, this is Justin from The Digital Life, and this was a 12 Pro versus 13 Pro review and comparison. Thank you.